Now, they've revealed everything from indelible ink used in some elections in Africa being faulty and ineffective to massive electoral fraud, as well as disclosures about corruption in several countries. They are Africa's whistleblowers, people who blow the whistle to expose sharp practices and to reveal hidden information about corruption, electoral fraud, and criminality generally. Their disclosures led to the resignation of President Jacob Zuma of South Africa in 2018 and to the prosecution in Angola of the family of the former President Eduardo dos Santos. And now, in the wake of Nigeria's 2023 presidential election, the platform that protects whistleblowers in Africa when the government fails to do so has come to this country, aiming to help whistleblowers here to have more impact with their disclosures. So, what can we expect? Well, for more on this, I'm joined now in the studio by Jimmy Kande, West Africa and Francophone Director of the Platform for the Protection of Whistleblowers in Africa, or PPLAAF. Thank you very much indeed for coming in.
Thank you, Mr. Charles.
First of all, tell us more about your organization and what it does. I mean, it's called the Platform for the Protection of Whistleblowers in Africa.
Yeah, as you said, our organization is called Platform to Protect Whistleblowers in Africa. What we used to do is to protect whistleblowers, because in Africa, most of countries, they don't have a law to protect whistleblowers. We have 54 countries in Africa, only 10 they have law to protect whistleblowers.
Is Nigeria one of them?
No, Nigeria is working to draft a law to protect whistleblowers. But even in the country where you can find a law, there is another problem. That is the most of challenge that we have also in Africa, is to be able to apply the law. So that's why
that's a good point.
That's why we are working with whistleblowers everywhere in Africa, for trying to give them the opportunity to blow the whistle, and to give them the opportunity to have more impact with their information. Because one of the challenge when you have information to reveal is to have impact. That's why if you can contact us, if we can work together, we're gonna work with other media, international media and some local media, to have more impact. And then we're gonna work also with some civil society to advocate for trying to ask government or justice to be involved in this case for having good result in your revelations.
Very interesting. And your organization and the people you support have pulled a few big ones, haven't they? I mean, in South Africa, Congo, Namibia, and Angola. Tell us about the investigations that stood out from those places briefly.
Yeah, so I think that one of the emblematic cases that we had in our organization is called state capture in South Africa. It was about the implication of the former president Jacob Zuma, who was involved in corruption with this family called Gupta.
Yes, and, the Indian Gupta brothers.
Yeah, Indian Gupta brothers. So one of the whistleblowers was working in the company of this family. When she was witness of some corruptions, she decided to contact us to say that, no, I'm witness and I want to reveal information about what the president is doing. And what is very interesting in this case, that the whistleblower is still living in South Africa until now. And one of the consequences after the revelation or the disclosure was the President Zuma resigned.
Yes, he did. 2018.
So, yeah, everybody can see what can be the impact when we can support whistleblower. And now Mr. Zuma has some action in justice because of the revelation of this whistleblower. It's very something important. And in Angola also, we have some action in justice in Europe, because it's very hard sometimes when whistleblowers that can reveal information in their country to see justice, to start investigation, because most of the time politicians are involved also in corruption and they can influence the justice. But we want also to create this network that we can start some actions in Europe if they can have some interest in this kind of countries.
Very, very interesting. And you yourself, of course, you're a former banker. and you're also an anti-corruption activist. You've been involved in several investigations into corruption in Africa yourself. I mean, how risky is all that for you?
It's not very, very easy, but I think that each African now know that our continent is very rich with all the natural resources that we have. We cannot accept every time to see our brothers to go to Europe because they are thinking there is a better life over there, when we can create opportunity here. That's why when you grow up in Africa, you know that everything around you is telling you that there is consequences of corruption. That's why we say that we have to be involved in this fight. It's one of my goals to do something for our continent. That's why I say that we used to tell our father that what is the legacy that we have in our continent. We don't have good countries, we don't have a good continent. So today we are having children also. They're gonna ask us the same question. We want to be able to tell them, even if we not have the good result now, we want to tell them that we already starting to fight against corruption. And this is the way that you have to follow also.
Well, that's very, very impressive. And presumably that's why you joined or started the platform for the protection of whistleblowers in Africa. How exactly do you protect them?
So we, as I said, that we have two type of whistleblower. There is one that accepts to be discreet. There is another that accepts to be public. So when they contact us, we used to analyze the risk. We have to confirm also, because there is people that can be in contact with you, but the revelation that they can bring to you or the documents are not true.
Yeah, so well, I was coming to that, but especially in the context of Nigeria, but keep saying what you're saying.
So we have to make sure, we're going to take time to check if the document is true, if the story is true, and we're going to analyze the risk. That's why I say we have to make sure, for example, when we're going to publish the revelation or the disclosure, the whistleblower gonna be in security in his country. And when we realize that the risk is too much for him to stay in the country, we can decide to relocate him in another country. But it's not all the case. But that's why we prefer people to come to us before blowing the whistle. But most of the person, they used to come to us when they already blow the whistle.
Right.
So it's going to be for us to try to help them, because most of the time they lose their job, they are victim of their revelation. This is the problem that we have in Africa. That's why it's very important for us to sensitize people and to understand also who is a whistleblower. Because most of the time when we can ask a question to people, who is a whistleblower, you're going to see people saying that journalists, they are whistleblower, or activists are whistleblower. But they have to understand that a whistleblower is a person who is working in a private or public company, is a witness of illicit fact, and he decides to denounce. It's not everybody. It's not a politician who come on TV and saying that this guy robbed money, that this guy is not a whistleblower. So it's very important to show them that there is an opportunity for them to blow the whistle. That's why we are here also trying to work with civil society to organize some workshop for trying to tell people that it's very important to blow the whistle, because we can help the country to fight against corruption.
That's fascinating. And of course, as you said, you deal with all kinds of sharp practices, including those that have to do with something like electoral fraud. I mean, is that partly why you're here in Nigeria, on the back of a bitterly disputed presidential election in which lots of allegations of fraud and manipulation have been made?
Yes, we heard about these allegations. I think that our point of view is it's very important, because when we are talking blowing the whistle, it's supposed to be linked with the public interest. And when we are talking about election, it's linked with the public interest. And one of the biggest challenge that we have in Africa is accountability also. If we cannot have leaders, if we have leaders, they know that they can pay for being governor or president or being in the National Assembly, how do you want them to be accountable to the people?
Well, they won't be.
Yeah.
That's exactly
because
right.
they know that they can buy everything.
Absolutely.
So that's why for us it's very important to say that to call all the citizens to say that if you think that even during the election, you are witness of some fact of corruption, and you think that you want to denounce it, so we can also work together. And I think that is for Nigeria, it's for Africa. For if you can do something like that, it's gonna help our continent. It can help our country,
Absolutely.
Nigeria, to improve in the way that they used to organize elections.
Yes.
Also.
And I imagine, though, that there'll be some governments that are quite hostile to whistleblowers that you end up protecting. I mean, what are some of the extreme cases of government reaction to this kind of unwavering outspokenness?
You know, I'm going to give you an example that we had in the Democratic Republic of Congo. There was two whistleblowers that denounced some suspicious transaction against one billionaire from Israel. So it was sanctioned by United States. But this guy was still doing some transaction with a bank from Cameroon. So there was two whistleblowers that decided to disclose, to reveal the information. So do you know what the Congolese state decided to put? Sentence death against them.
Sentence them to death?
Yeah.
My goodness.
And now they are living in another country because they cannot leave.
Okay, so you help them to get out.
Yeah, to get out before
right.
So
they sentence them in absentia.
Yeah. So, you know, sometimes they are victims, as I said, that you can find assassinations, they can lose their job. And when we are talking about the protection of whistleblower, it's not only about the whistleblower, but we have to talk about also their families.
Yes,
because
of course.
if when they want to put pressure on you, sometimes
they go
can,
after your family.
Yeah, so that's why it's very important, and you can find more cases in Africa where they kill whistleblowers. Even in South Africa, where I say that the two whistleblowers about behind the revelation against Jacob Zuma, it's a positive point. They're still living there, but there is other cases where the whistleblowers were killed in South Africa, in Madagascar, in other countries. That's why I think that one of the Convention of United Nations against corruption is calling all the country to vote the law to protect whistleblower. And one of the discussions that we had today with the blowing unit at the Ministry of Finance, they are working and they want even to go
That's
to
the Nigerian Ministry of Finance.
So they want even to go to South Africa to learn about the experience of South Africa, for knowing how they can improve or how they can implement what South Africa is doing now.
Well, I'm very glad that you had that meeting with the government, and it seems as if the Nigerian government is keen to work with you and cooperate with you, and that's a very positive sign, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a positive sign, because we used to work with other government also, because we don't want them to think that we are against them.
Yes.
So we want government to understand that civil society, you want just help them to improve. Because of most of government in Africa, they're going to say that we want to fight against corruption.
Yes.
But how do you going to explain to someone that you want to fight against corruption when whistleblower cannot leave their country, when they are supposed to leave their country for going somewhere else? So that's why it's very important for us to give them some advices, and that's why we used to work with them also.
And when you come to a country like Nigeria, you mentioned this briefly, and I said we would come to it later on. I mean, Nigeria, lots of people want to find a way to leave this country. How do you determine that someone is really telling the truth and is seriously at risk from whistleblowing?
I think that we used to analyze the situation in the country, and when who is involved in the revelation that the whistleblower want to put out or want to put in public. So we're gonna work on it. That's why it's very important for us to have some network here, because we can check the information. We can try to, because before publishing a report, we don't just tell everybody that the whistleblower said.
Right.
Sometimes we're gonna be in contact even with the person that the whistleblower is saying that they are involved. That's why we used to accept only whistleblower that they can bring documents.
Yes.
Not whistleblower who gonna just talk, because it's very easy to talk and everybody can talk. That's why it's very important when you can bring documents and we know that we can check, we're gonna take time. That's why I say that it's very important to take time. There is some investigation that we published after 1 year, after 6 months. And you don't need to be public. You can be discreet if you want. But we have our investigation director, we're gonna try to check everything. For example, for the report that we publish in Congo is called one of the big leak in Africa called Congo Hold Up. After our revelation, we were able to say that, for example, this farmer minister was able to withdraw in cash in the bank at this date. And after the revelation, nobody went to justice for saying that what we were saying in our report, it was not true. Because they realized that we did a good job.
Right, and that spurs the government to take action, doesn't it?
Yeah, so because after the report, we're gonna make some recommendation to ask government to take some measure. And as an organization, we're gonna try to call civil society to go in justice also when they are thinking that is for citizen interest, they have to do something. And when the suspicion transaction can have some link with other countries in Europe or in the United States, we can also use the way that we can contact the justice in this country for having more impact.
Very, very interesting. I want to thank you very much indeed for coming to talk to us, Jimmy Kande. He's the West Africa and Francophone Director of the Platform for the Protection of Whistleblowers in Africa. And I mean, come back and talk to us some other time and update us on what you're doing in Nigeria.
Thank you, Mr. Shah.
Thank you for coming in. That's it for this edition of Arise Prime Time. Join us again next week. From me and the entire team here in Abuja and Kebbi State, bye-bye and thank you for watching.